So my name is Catherine Walker, and I'm currently based in Birmingham. I work as a teaching fellow in geography, working on research projects that focus mostly on young people and responses to climate change.
Could you explain your subject as if we were teenagers?
Yeah, it's great to be able to talk to young people, because I guess young people are very much at the heart of my what I research about. I'm really interested in how children and then adolescents, young people respond to messages about the environment, respond to messages about potentially how the environment is at risk, how it's changing, but also how there's much to celebrate in our environments, and there's the beauty of the natural world. And so I'm really interested in how children and young people are learning about these things, what you're learning about in schools, but also how you make connections between everyday experiences, what you see on your way to school or on your way around your community, and those messages about potentially climate change, how our climate's changing, etc. So I'm interested in just how children and young people growing up in this age where we talk about climate change a lot, how you are kind of processing these things and what your priorities are, really, what you think you and others can be doing to act on any concerns that you might have about climate change. Working with children to produce kind of cognitive maps of their local communities, and then doing mobile interviews where they would actually use that cognitive map to take me around the community. And I do also do interviews and focus groups, and in my PhD research I used photos as well, photo elicitation, to get children to be talking about their environmental concerns. And then subsequently I've worked on projects where again we've used different mapping methods. And so my topic as a whole, I guess, is how children relate to their everyday environments, and how they relate their everyday experiences of their environments to what I term the big environmental issues kind of facing children, but facing all of us. So it's that kind of connection between the everyday environment and then the kind of big environmental concerns. And I'm in geography at the moment, but I guess more broadly I would call myself a social scientist. But probably the methods I used are more sort of have been developed the most in geography.
Could you talk about any light bulb moments that you might have had in your childhood or growing up that led you to your career?
That's a really good question. I mean, yeah, I guess having the chance to go and spend a year in Chile before I went to university I think that has really started a love of travel, but I guess it's broadened my mind in a way that it couldn't have been broadened just by reading about a place or watching documentaries. Actually going and living somewhere that was very different to the context I'd grown up in, and getting very, very immersed in a particular culture, I guess it's given me a sense of people think in different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to think about things, and but a lot of how people think about things is related to the context in which they've grown up, the cultural norms, how much availability of resources and options and kind of life options and things there are. And so I guess, having that opportunity to spend a year overseas as an 18-year-old was quite formative.
The 5 elements: earth, air, space, water, fire. Could you place your work and the way you think about your work into one of the elements?
Probably earth. I guess a sense of rootedness. Yeah, I think I am very interested. I guess what I was just saying there is I talked about kind of time in Chile, that about how everybody has different ways of seeing the world, and it has to do with the context in which they've grown up, and I guess their roots in a particular place.
Thank you, thank you. How do you personally deal with the kind of issues about climate change?
And then I spent a lot of time in my PhD reading about how sort of individual behaviour change models are flawed, and that really what we need is kind of structural change, government changing government policies, etc. And obviously what everybody as individuals can do is quite sort of, it's constrained by the context in which they're in. So that was quite hard, because I guess it sort of caused me to question a bit, well, why am I even bothering sorting my recycling, etc., when actually what we really need is kind of structural change, or I guess as people like Naomi Klein would say, like system change. But I think now I see it more of as a both and, that I do still think that we do need structural systemic change, and I think that we need to be calling on governments for that. And it's really exciting seeing how the youth strikes for climate have really had an impact, and I do think that those kinds of direct actions are really important, maybe not in actually changing government policy, but although that is the ultimate aim, but also just in sort of awakening the public to the fact that so many people care about these issues.
There is a question about making data warm, but I think you've answered that really. You know, that your research methods are very user-friendly. I don't know if there's anything you could add to that.
I guess it goes back to this kind of idea of rootedness. And I think what was good in the PhD, my PhD research, which was part of a larger project, was it was really interesting going to the family home and talking through kind of everyday life in the place where it happens, rather than just sitting in a school classroom with the children. I like, if possible, being able to do research kind of in the place where everyday life happens.
Could you talk about beauty in your subject?
Yeah, it's not really something, I have to say, it's not really something that I kind of think about that much in relation to the topics that I research on, but it is important, because I guess it's that love of, you know, what's valuable to us, what's valuable to the research participants. You know, why is it concerning that that valued aspects of their environments are kind of potentially being destroyed, or could be? I guess it's because we recognise value in them. Beauty is one of the ways that we recognise value. So I think when I've been to the some of the youth strikes for climate, I've been really, I've felt most hopeful when I've seen different generations together, you know, grandparents who've brought their grandchildren along, or I remember having a conversation with a pregnant woman who was actually very kind of emotional, she just popped out during her lunch break and just wanted to see what was going on, and kind of was talking about how she was encouraged by seeing this, that the child that she was carrying was at least coming into a world where people care about these things. So I think, yeah, generations working together, I think, is what I would most like to see happening, and not, I think the media can sometimes pit one generation against another, but actually just remembering that we are all in it together.